Yo, word up to the homeboys, to the homegirls. All right, we're going to be spitting some facts, some truthifications, and yeah, we're going to be talking about my journey closing my first high-ticket client. And when I say high-ticket, I classify that as over $1,000, but this contract in particular was for $2,500. And I'm going to be talking about the truth as to how you actually close a high-ticket client, meaning having somebody or some business pay you a good chunk of change to solve a problem or do a service for them or give them a product, whatever. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the truth as to how I did it, and also just some truths to be weary of on your journey to creating the life that you desire. You will never create that life if you are trying to be perceived a certain way. If you are overtly and overly trying desperately to come across a certain way, or certainly lying about what you have done and where you have gone. So I can tell you one thing, that you're wasting more time in this moment being fearful of sharing where you are than actually just sharing where you are. You're wasting more time because you're going to run around the same problem. So if you just share where you are and share your journey, ultimately, most people aren't even going to see those videos because nobody's going to watch them. But if you share your journey, there's always proof in the pudding. And I recommend never lying as to where you are, what you're doing, how you got there. That's baseline, because a lot of the times we compare ourselves to people who are doing this and that, and we're believing a fictitious marketing scheme to make us believe this, and we're also lying to ourselves and to others when we are trying to act a certain way. Anyways, that's number one. Number two, the high-ticket client, the $2,500 contract. So how did this happen? Well, number one, nobody is going to do or give you any money if they do not trust you. And trust is the ultimate ingredient. Trust. Can you do what you're expressing yourself to do? Have you done it yourself? And ultimately, I just want to share that the day that I signed the $2,500 client was over a year after I started embarking on an online business journey. Started off having some ideas, traveling, making some videos, deleting a YouTube channel, trying this, trying that, building a WordPress site, a website, building a clothing line, building a high-ticket offer, building and developing a community, private network, and ultimately the person in particular that signed that contract was somebody who was in my private network for a few months, gained a lot of trust from me, and as far as positioning in that community, he was actually the first person to ever sign up without me having to do outreach or me having to pitch anything. It was the framing behind how I attracted him and how I acted in this community. But what did it take? The community had been live for months prior. I got some free people in there, tried to pitch it, this and that. And what happens though is you notice that the positioning is really what matters. And it was not until I had a very high caliber guest in my community or in my private network do a leadership call for somebody that I know quite well. And it wasn't until that positioning, until I got my first paid member in my network. And then after that, I had a bunch of people joining the network. It's like, wait, how does that work? Why is that happening? Because the goodwill and positioning that I built, other people I had got on calls prior to. And ultimately, like, the whole goal of you being here and wanting to be here closing these big clients is you ultimately believing yourself and having conviction in the way that you're pitching and the positioning you have with your offer and what you're doing. So how do you get there then? Well, you take action. And act with the notion that there is no such thing as failure. So you're going to create a community. It's going to suck. Nobody's going to be in there. Nobody's going to engage. You're not going to have anybody show up to calls. You're going to create a high ticket offer. Nobody's going to book the link. You're going to create a brand. Nobody's going to buy the products, because that's just the start. That's the foundation. Then you need to learn how to market. You need to learn how to build trust. And as far as building trust, use the DMs, especially on the beginning of your journey. Use direct messages, and they will be your best friend. And surely, too, starting with something that's cheaper to get people in the door. That's why I like something like a private network that's a lower ticket price, and you can nurture them. You can build more trust with them. And all that is, if nobody's buying and joining the community, that just means there's a lack of trust outwardly before the paywall. And then if nobody's booking further on in the network, that means that there's something missing in the network. So I like to have it a very streamlined approach as to how I'm funneling people, how I'm attracting them, and how I am nurturing them further. And yes, I just want you to know really the truth of like how long it took me to get a high ticket client, because simply I didn't have the mechanisms in place to be able to sustain the frequency of providing that service to the client or the conviction in myself. So it's good that you start small with a smaller price point. A lot of the times, and you know, as cool as this information is like price it wicked high, wait for the gasp on the sales call. It's like if you've never even done it, like you're gonna have less conviction in yourself. So staggering, you know, your price points, having something that's more group based, a community that's lower cost, and you nurture them in there. How do you get people in there? Well, get some free members in this community, and then do some outreach, and then post online about the calls you're doing, this and that. And then when you're in there, you can build a lot more trust with these people. And then after that, you can have systems. If you've already built an offer and you've built the systems behind it, you can pitch a higher offer and you can close a higher offer. But I just want you to know the amount of calls that it even took for me to close that first high ticket prospect. But it doesn't actually matter that it took that long, because now with these systems created from when that happened, it all snowballs so much quicker. You just need to get through the phase of like no money, of no interaction, and you need to get through it with grace, and you need to not come from a place of desperation. If you come from a place of desperation, it will never work. So what I recommend is realizing it's going to take a lot longer to nurture people and a lot longer to build trust. So how do you do that? Start small, build, and just do whatever you can and work as hard as you can and come from a place of love for as long as you can. And I promise you, if you keep doing that and never give up that foundation, you will close a whale. I promise you. And then the price points will get higher. It'll go from $2,500 to $5,000 to $5,000 to $7,000, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's all starting. It's all for you to gain the conviction. So it's actually all about you. Everybody is a mirror as to who you believe that you are and who you are. That's why I'll always say, in the face of the unknown, always have conviction, because you're worthy right now, regardless if you've made a sale or not, regardless if it's taken you a year or not, regardless if you failed or not, because there is no such thing as failure. Much love, fam. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Yes, sir.